want to start our deep dive today by asking you a direct question, and I want you to actually pause and like really think about the answer.
Right.
When was the last time you laughed? And I don't mean, a polite little chuckle at a coworker's weak joke over Zoom.
Oh, yeah, the fake meeting laugh.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
like just blowing air out of your nose while you're looking at a meme on your phone. I mean, laughing freely from the heart. A real, uncontrollable, gasping for air kind of laugh.
It's a surprisingly tough question for a lot of adults to answer, actually.
It really is.
Because if you ask a child, I mean, they can probably point to something that happened 10 minutes ago. But as we get older, we tend to relegate that visceral kind of laughter to the absolute margins of our lives.
Yeah, like it's a bonus feature.
Right. We treat it as something frivolous, a luxury, a reward we are only allowed to have after all the serious work of the day is finally done.
I know, I'm definitely guilty of that. And honestly, it's what makes the material we are diving into today so jarring.
It really flips the script.
It totally does. We're looking at an essay by a pastoral clinical counselor named Friar John Baptist, and he completely upends that idea. He makes the argument that laughter is and this is a quote, a sacred medicine.
Which is a heavy phrase.
Yeah, and I have to admit, when I first read the phrase sacred medicine, I rolled my eyes just a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
It sounds like something you'd see, like, printed on a sunset background on a motivational poster in a dentist's office.
Right, yeah, like live, laugh, love.
Exactly. But he actually backs it up with hard science. He pulls from sources like the Mayo Clinic before he even moves into the deep theology of it.
Which is exactly why we can't dismiss it as just, a nice sentiment.
Right.
The sources we're synthesizing today demand that we stop looking at laughter as just a byproduct of a good mood. We have to start recognizing it as a highly sophisticated built-in mechanism for human survival.
And for resilience and healing.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because what I find so compelling here is how the source material bridges the gap between cold, hard biology and deep spirituality.
Yeah, it covers both ends of the spectrum.
It takes something we do completely unconsciously and just puts it under a microscope. But to even approach this idea of laughter reaching the level of the sacred,
Well,
we have to start with the physical machine.
we have to look at the body.
Right. We have to look at what is literally happening inside the body.
Right, because the physical mechanism of laughter is incredibly complex.
Yeah.
The text highlights how some health writers have actually coined the term inner jogging.
Okay, inner jogging, which sounds like a terrible 1980s aerobics VHS tape.
Oh, totally. Spandex and sweatbands.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fun phrase, but is it actually an accurate description of what's happening?
Physiologically, it is
Huh.
astonishingly accurate. Laughter is not a passive state at all.
Okay.
When you let out a genuine belly laugh, it triggers a massive systemic chain reaction in your body. Think about the mechanics. Your diaphragm starts spasming,
Just like involuntarily.
completely involuntarily. And that rapid expansion and contraction draws in huge amounts of oxygen-rich airway, more than your normal resting breath. And that stimulates your heart and your lungs. Your heart rate actually spikes, pumping that oxygenated blood all throughout your body.
So it literally is a cardiovascular workout for your internal organs. Like,
Yeah.
it's a free cardio session you don't even have to put gym clothes on for.
Exactly. But the real magic, according to the text, happens in the come down.
What do you mean?
Well, after that initial spike, your heart rate and your blood pressure drop dramatically. The Mayo Clinic researchers cited in our material explain that this process forces your muscles to relax.
Like a physical release of tension?
Yes, a good Marty laugh can leave your muscles relaxed for up to 45 minutes afterward,
Wait, 45 minutes? Just from laughing?
just from laughing. And while all this mechanical shifting is happening, your brain is just flooding your nervous system with endorphins.
Okay, right. And we hear the word endorphins all the time in wellness spaces. But what are they actually doing in this specific context? How is that acting as a medicine for pain and tension?
Well, endorphins are essentially your body's natural opiates. They bind to the exact same neuroreceptors as pain medications do. So when the text says laughter reduces pain, it doesn't mean it just, distracts you from a headache.
It's not just a mental trick.
No, it means your brain is actively deploying a localized chemical intervention to block pain signals.
That is wild.
And at the same time, this physical exertion is stimulating your vagus nerve, which acts like a brake pedal for your nervous system.
A brake pedal.
Yeah, it shifts you out of the sympathetic state, which is your fight or flight, high stress mode and forces you into the parasympathetic state.
Which is the rest and digest mode, right?
Exactly. You're literally flushing cortisol, the stress hormone, right out of your bloodstream.
Man, that is just wild. But it brings up something I just don't understand.
What's that?
Well, if laughter is this highly efficient, totally free, built-in biological mechanism for stress relief and pain reduction, why do we instinctively suppress it when we are stressed?
Oh, that's a great point.
Right. It feels like we actively shut off the valve right when we need the medicine the absolute most.
What's fascinating here is the cognitive requirement of laughter. It's all about where your brain is forced to live in that exact moment.
Okay, walk me through that.
Let's look at the psychology of it. When we are stressed, where's our attention usually focused?
Usually, worrying about something I did yesterday or freaking out about something I have to do tomorrow.
Right. It is almost always trapped in the past, like ruminating on a mistake we made. Or it's trapped in the future, spiraling into anxiety about a deadline or a crisis that hasn't even happened yet. Stress pulls us completely out of the now.
And laughter demands the now.
It demands absolute presence. The text brings in the insights of health writer Leanne Thyman, who points out that laughter literally forces us into the present moment.
How so?
Think about how a joke works. It's based on incongruity. A setup leads your brain down a predictable path, and then the punchline suddenly subverts your expectation.
Right, there's that twist.
Exactly. To get the joke, your frontal lobe has to instantly process that twist in logic. You cannot solve that sudden puzzle and simultaneously be gripped by a panic attack about tomorrow's mortgage payment.
Oh, wow. It's a cognitive override?
Yes. You literally cannot do both at once.
So it's a biological reset button. It just interrupts the anxiety loop entirely.
Precisely. Now, it doesn't solve the underlying problem, of course. Thyman notes it just lifts us briefly above our problems.
Yeah, the mortgage payment is still due.
Right. But by shifting your nervous system out of fight or flight, you are suddenly able to look at that problem with a grounded, clear, and present state of mind.
Rather than from a place of panicked reactivity.
Exactly.
I love that. But it sets up a really interesting paradox for me.
How so?
Because if our bodies physically crave this inner jogging, and if it lowers our cortisol and hits the reset button on our anxiety,
Okay.
why don't we just lock ourselves in empty rooms and laugh alone?
Just schedule a solitary laugh session.
Yeah, like if I'm stressed at work, I could just schedule 15 minutes of solitary, aggressive laughing into my calendar at 3 p.m.
Well, aside from the fact that your coworkers would probably call security on you,
I mean, fair point, fair point.
you actually wouldn't get the same physiological payoff.
Wait, why not? If it's just mechanical, if it's just diaphragm spasms and vagus nerve stimulation.
Because laughter didn't evolve purely as an internal health mechanism. It evolved as a social tool.
Oh, okay.
Evolutionary psychologists actually believe laughter predates human speech. Long before we had language, early hominids used the sound of laughter to signal to the rest of the tribe that a perceived threat was actually a false alarm.
Like, hey, that rustling bush was just a rabbit, not a tiger.
Exactly. It is a biological, all-clear signal. It is fundamentally, inherently relational.
That perfectly bridges into the next major concept in the essay.
Yeah, the social aspects.
Right. The text brings in a 2024 address from Pope Francis, who was speaking to a gathering of artists from the world of humor.
Which is a fascinating gathering all on its own.
Right. But he said something incredibly simple, but really piercing. He said, "It is easier to laugh together than alone."
It is a profound observation. And Francis uses that address to make a vital distinction about human nature. We love to define ourselves as Homo sapiens, the wise being, the thinking being.
Right. Our entire society is basically built around this identity.
Exactly. But Francis argues we are also, just as fundamentally, Homo ludens.
The playful being.
Yes, Homo ludens. We are not designed solely to analyze, to labor, and to carry heavy burdens all the time. The capacity for play, for shared joy, is baked into our anthropology just as deeply as our capacity to reason.
So what does this all mean for us today? Because, reading that concept made me want to push back pretty hard against our modern cultural priorities.
Oh, absolutely.
We are utterly obsessed with being Homo sapiens. Look at the whole self-improvement space. We are constantly trying to optimize our brain function, maximize our daily productivity, biohack our sleep.
It never stops.
Even our downtime has to be productive. We monetize our hobbies, we read books to level up, we measure our entire worth as humans by our output. Have we essentially made playfulness a taboo for adults?
I really think we have.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains a lot about the epidemic of isolation and burnout we are seeing everywhere right now.
Yeah.
In modern corporate and adult culture, playfulness is basically equated with immaturity.
Hmm.
We have this unspoken rule. If you are serious, you are important.
Yes.
If your brow is furrowed, you are doing valuable work. But if you are laughing, you are wasting time.
We wear our stress like a badge of honor, honestly. Like if you aren't stressed, you aren't working hard enough.
But the source material flips that entirely.
Mm.
It elevates play to a profound human necessity. Remember the evolutionary signal of laughter we just talked about?
The all clear signal.
Right. When you share a genuine laugh with someone, you are sending a subconscious signal that says, we are safe here, my defenses are down, and yours can be too. Laughter is the ultimate social glue. It builds collective resilience. You cannot do the hard, serious work we value so much if the social fabric holding the team or the family together is brittle and frayed.
So by constantly optimizing ourselves as these like solitary thinking machines, we are actually breaking the very tool that keeps us connected.
Exactly.
We become highly productive and completely isolated.
And when tragedy strikes, that isolation becomes unbearable, which is really where the essay takes its most profound turn.
Because this shared playfulness isn't just about blowing off steam on a Friday night.
No, it goes much deeper.
It fundamentally shifts our perspective on reality, especially when reality gets incredibly dark.
Right.
And this brings us to the ultimate thesis of Friar John Baptist's essay, The Sacred Nature of Laughter. The essay dives into the work of a sociologist and theologian named Peter Berger.
Specifically referencing his book, Redeeming Laughter.
Right. And this is a heavy philosophical pivot. Berger argues that the comic experience, especially in times of hardship, points to something beyond ordinary reality.
He describes it as offering a glimpse of redemption.
Yeah.
It acts as a hint that the brokenness, the contradictions, and just the immense heaviness of the human condition are not the ultimate truth of the universe.
Now, wait. I want to challenge this a bit because it sounds dangerously close to toxic positivity.
Okay, how so?
You know, the whole just smile through the pain, look on the bright side mentality that actually minimizes people's real trauma. Is Berger just saying we should, like, laugh our grief away?
That is a crucial distinction, and the text is very careful to clarify this. No, sacred laughter does not deny suffering.
Okay, good.
It's not an escape hatch from reality.
Yeah.
When Berger talks about laughter in the context of deep pain, he isn't saying the pain doesn't matter. He is saying that laughter is a tiny, defiant act of hope.
A defiant act.
Yes, it is a declaration that says, this grief is real, this situation is awful, but it is not the whole story.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. I view that kind of laughter like the inappropriate joke at a funeral or the moment of dark humor in a hospital waiting room as an act of rebellion.
Oh, I like that word. Rebellion.
Yeah, it's rebellion against despair. Think about this analogy. Imagine you are trapped in a pitch-black, windowless room. The darkness is totally oppressive.
Right.
And then you find a microscopic crack in the wall where a single beam of sunlight is shining through. Finding that tiny beam of light doesn't instantly tear down the walls, right?
No, you're still trapped.
Exactly. It doesn't magically solve your problem. But what it does do is prove that the darkness isn't the only thing that exists. The sun is still out there.
That's a powerful image.
Laughter in the middle of a crisis is that crack of sunlight.
I love that analogy because it perfectly illustrates the shift in perspective. The sunlight changes your relationship to the room.
Yes.
The room is still dark, the walls are still there, but you are no longer entirely consumed by the darkness. It allows the soul to breathe, as Friar John Baptist writes.
It allows the physical body to participate in hope.
Yes. But this raises an important question for you listening right now.
Yeah.
How do you view joy in difficult times?
That's a tough one to face.
It really is. If you find yourself laughing during a crisis at work, or God forbid, after losing someone, do you immediately punish yourself for it?
Oh, the guilt is so real. We feel like we are betraying the seriousness of the moment. We feel like if we aren't actively performing our misery 24/7, people will think we don't care.
And that goes right back to our obsession with being serious. But the text challenges us to hold both realities simultaneously.
Pain and joy.
Exactly. Human beings are complex enough to hold profound, life-altering pain and sudden, absurd joy in the exact same moment. Recognizing the absurdity of a situation doesn't diminish the tragedy of it.
It just highlights our resilience.
It is what makes laughter, as the author beautifully puts it, an act of grace moving through tired lives.
An act of grace moving through tired lives. That phrasing just stops you in your tracks.
It really does.
And it perfectly encapsulates the journey we've taken today. We started with the literal biological machinery, the diaphragm spasms, the vagus nerve, the flood of endorphins.
The inner jogging.
The inner jogging. We moved to the absolute necessity of shared playfulness, allowing ourselves to be homo ludens, not just optimized productivity machines. And finally, we arrived at this profound realization that laughter is an act of hope and rebellion against despair.
And it all culminates in Friar John Baptist's powerful concluding thought, which ties the biology and the theology together perfectly.
What does he say?
He writes that laughter can become the body's prayer when words are not enough.
Wow. That is heavy, but it makes so much sense. Sometimes the stress or the grief or just the exhaustion of modern life is too heavy for language.
You just can't articulate it.
Right. You can't
Yeah.
articulate it, so the
Mhm.
body takes over. The body prays through laughter.
It is a sacred medicine, but it's one we have to actively choose to take. We have to give ourselves permission to put down the armor of seriousness.
To let our guard down.
Yeah, and to risk connecting with the people around us through play.
And that brings me to a final thought. I want to leave you with, something to mull over long after this deep dive is finished.
Let's hear it.
We've explored how laughter is fundamentally meant to be a shared, relational experience. It evolved to signal safety to our tribe. It physically regulates our nervous systems when we are together.
Right, it's social glue.
So, what happens to our biology and our society when we replace genuine, shared, in-person laughter with scrolling alone in the dark, looking at funny memes on a screen?
Oh, man. That's haunting.
We might forcefully exhale out of our noses. We might get a tiny microscopic hit of dopamine.
But are we getting the medicine?
Are we really?
If laughter truly is the body's prayer, and it relies on the social glue of connection, are we losing the sacred power of this medicine when we remove the physical presence of others?
That is definitely something to think about.
Think about it, and then maybe text a friend, get together in person, and find that crack of sunlight today.